when you go about making change, I don't know, it just, you do it because Bob doesn't like me to say this, but you do it because you're pissed off about something. And if you don't like what's going on, then you do something about it.
I began my academic career after I left the Army. I spent 3 years in the Army. And in the Army, I was an interpreter translator. And I kind of liked that because it gave me a chance to, first of all, clarify some things which sometimes, if you don't ask the question, you get it wrong. And that led me to believe that I was going to not only be an interpreter translator all my life, or maybe work at the UN, but also I wanted to see to what extent that reached over into some of the other kinds of problems that we have as a society. I came in initially just to pay a favor to the person who was at that time the head of the Black Studies Department. I didn't intend to do anything more than that one class for him. It just happened to be in my field. So the class was a very big success, and so the chairman of the department that I was teaching a Black Studies course, but I was actually hired by the economics department. Decided he wanted me to consider staying because one thing he said is that we're going to need a chair pretty soon, and he saw I had quite a bit of background in just chairing organizations. And he predicted that I'd probably be chair for 20 years. He was right. Most people don't realize that economics and business are two different disciplines. Business is the study of how you make profits. Economics it goes deeper. And it looks at the way in which people behave based on what resources they have. And I find that it's economics in particular is a very satisfactory discipline because we all are really doing in some way economizing with whatever means we have, trying to allocate those among the kinds of outcomes that we would like to achieve. And that's not always monetary.
I'll make a long story short. From the time I graduated in 1950, I got my BA in 1974. So 24 years later, I finally took my final exam. And the dean's secretary at one point had the nerve to say to me, I don't think you're a serious student because you keep dropping out. And I said, you know I'm a serious student because I keep coming back. My focus on my master's thesis was government support of the arts I focused on the United States, actually. The United States has not been much of a supporter. The United States government. Artists now provide insights for the public based on what's going on in their communities or in the world even. The arts are super important because of how they teach children to think outside of the box, so to speak. So I've been involved in the arts in some way or another because I have been an arts administrator as well as an artist. But the Olympics were in Los Angeles in 1984, and I worked on the cultural aspect of the Olympic Games. I was, I think, the 30th person who was hired on staff, which became a staff of thousands of people. But I was hired early on to bring the cultural aspects of the games to the public. The Playboy Company Corporation wanted to be the sponsor of the Olympic Jazz, but they wanted their logo. And we said, no, there will be no logos at the games except the Olympic rings. So they backed out. I got even to go to the Playboy Jazz Festival that year as a guest of the vice president for corporate affairs, but we still had to turn him down. We had taken time out to travel around the world and learn a few things. And so by the time we got to UCLA, you might say I won't say that. We weren't ready to take any crap for anybody, I'll put it that way. He had become president of the UCLA NAACP chapter. When he became president, he took up the whole business of being active on campus and changing things on campus. I didn't really consider myself to be a leader in the Black community. I was doing what seemed to be just a natural thing to do when you find a problem that needs, well, not so much that needs solving, because not everybody considered freedom and liberty and equality to be a problem that needed solving. Some people view liberty and freedom differently from others. When we went on the freedom rides, my view of freedom was freedom from the oppression of racial discrimination and segregation and inequality. Being an art student, I helped to design the picket signs, just because that's something you can do. One thing is, I'll tell you, when you are involved in a movement, it's important to use all of the skills that all of the people who are working with you, just whatever skills they have, be open to using them. I think it's also good for young people to take a deep look at the history of our country. For instance, when we went on the Freedom Rides, we went into New Orleans first to get a little more orientation toward what to expect when we got to Mississippi. And what they told us the night before we were going to be arrested, to not go into town unless you had at least $1 in your pocket or your purse, because you could be arrested if you're Black. You can be arrested for vagrancy, is what they called it. They made vagrancy a crime. In other words, to be a person on the street with very little money, less than $1, that was a crime. Now, a freed slave is quite likely to not have $1 on his person, and therefore he could be arrested, he or she could be arrested, and then put back into slavery. Some abolitionist minister once said something like, the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. Our history has, every time we get a little bit toward justice, you have, for lack of a better word, a backlash. Or you don't get all that you were fighting for. So you need to prioritize what you want to get and what changes you want to make. And you need to know how to negotiate And that's a lot different from compromising.